Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Happy June. Welcome to the Open Metadata Community Meetup. We're going to let people get in before we get started for just a couple seconds. So uh, please let us know where you're joining in from, and we can get started here in a couple seconds. Thanks again for being here. Got some people coming in from California, from Austria, India. Got for June this month, I've got some sunshine emojis. Hopefully it's sunny where you're at as summer gets started. I'm calling in from Los Angeles, and typically we're famous for June gloom, but it is incredibly sunny today. Looks like I can't really follow up with the chat. We got people coming in from everywhere, Sweden and France and Canada. It's raining in India. Hope you're staying dry. This is wonderful. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for all of your messages. Wow. I think I can go ahead if everyone is okay. I can go ahead and get started here just in a couple more seconds. Again, this is a June edition of our Open Metadata Community Meetup. A lot to share today. So I'm pretty excited to dive right into it, but we will give it just a couple more seconds. It looks like this participants number is still climbing. Is this going to be recorded? Yes. Yes, this will be recorded. Thanks for asking. Speaking of which, maybe we can get that started now. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for your patience. Let's get into the Open Metadata Community Meeting here for June 2025. Thank you all. So if this is your first community meetup, welcome. Thanks for being here. We always start with an agenda, and you'll see kind of a breakdown of what you can expect for the next hour. We typically start these community meetups with updates about the health of the community and some of the metrics that we like to track over time. So excited for you all to see. There's been some really great numbers this past month. Looking forward to that. Open Metadata has a new version coming out, version 1.8. And we're going to be talking about some of the new features for the rest of the meetup, right? So there's an MCP server update. If you were at the last community meetup, we introduced that topic and how it would interact with Open Metadata. We'll get it more into just a reminder of what MCP server is, how it works with Open Metadata, and then I will be showing a quick demonstration of what you can expect. We have a quick call for spotlights as well, so you'll get more information about that soon. And then we'll be wrapping up with data contracts and Open Metadata and some time for Q&A at the end. So again, thanks for being here. And let's get started with those community metrics. So we had 6 new open source developers contributing code to Open Metadata this month. Thank you all for your contributions. 192 new GitHub stars. Please, if you are using Open Metadata in production or you're having, getting some value out of deeper insights into what your data systems are looking like with Open Metadata, please feel free to give the project a star on GitHub. Almost 300 new members on our Slack. So we're closing in on 10,000 Slack members at slack.openmetadata.org. That is incredible, right? And thank you all for being there. If you think that there's someone that that could be that could benefit from the support and the collaboration that we're building out on that Slack, please let them know. As we pass 10,000 users there, we may have celebrations and some surprises as we reach that milestone. So hopefully we can do that soon and then, get to those celebrations. And then between our Twitter and Meetup groups, those grew pretty significantly this month as well. So this is a really exciting slide. I wanted to spend more time than usual on this one. You can see the number of merged PRs in uh, the beginning of May. Collate had a company offsite. You can see, but like there was a small dip there. But since the velocity of open metadata, especially as we get prepared for version 1.8, has really exploded. In the past, since Monday, there's been just over 100 merged PRs into open metadata. Over the past 4 weeks, there's been 322 PRs in total. So there's a lot of new things coming to you in open metadata version 1.8. One of those that we're going to be talking about later is our embedded MCP server. And we'll talk more about what that is here in a couple slides. But MCP is an open source project that is moving very, very fast right now. It's widely regarded as one of the fastest moving and largest growing open source projects right now. And since last Monday, they've had about 33 merged PRs into their project. So open metadata, is fast. I don't want to, belittle the velocity of MCP. They're building that out really fast, and it's amazing to see all the functionality that they're adding so quickly. But compared to open metadata, we've been adding over double the amount of PRs, just in the last week. So there's a lot of new functionality coming to you. Things are moving very fast. I think if you're here at these community meetups, we're hoping to try our best to keep you up to speed with all that is happening, with all of this code that is being given to you through open metadata. The number of support posts continue to be pretty healthy. You can see that they're getting about consistent around this 130 support posts a week. If you have any questions about something that's blocking you from maybe having a successful trial of open metadata or preventing you from bringing that into a production environment, any questions about how you could be using it better, more efficiently, or more easily, please let us know in our Slack at the support channel. For those support questions, you can see some of them are turning into bugs and feature requests, but still an overwhelming majority are being resolved. Right. So always looking to help with your open metadata environment and make sure that it is as healthy as possible in that support channel. And the number of Slack posts here have kind of leveled off in April and May from a small peak at the beginning of the year, but those in general continue to climb. So as we approach 10,000 Slack members, this continues to be a pretty healthy place, a very responsive place. So thank you all for all of your conversations in Slack. We had 11 community contributors since our last meeting. So, you saw that velocity and the amount of code that we're getting in to open metadata. You saw the amount of PRs that are being merged. If you are looking to get started contributing to open source, this is a great opportunity with open metadata to maybe build out your first contribution into open source or continue to build out those. As you can see, like people that are sending in PRs, like they're landing into the open metadata code base at a very high rate. And these are some of the people that are helping us, get more code, get more functionality to you through open metadata. Wanted to give a special shout out to GPBY. This is their GitHub username. I couldn't find what their actual name is. So if you wanted to let me know, I can give you a shout out by name, but wanted to, send some appreciation for them as well here for adding to open metadata. Okay, if anyone has any questions about kind of the metrics that we've just seen in that update, please let me know. But now we can jump into open metadata version 1.8.0. So the final tests are kind of being evaluated right now, and the final aspects of this build, it should be available to you within the week. So really looking forward to everyone getting their hands on this new version of open metadata. We have a Java update coming into open metadata. So really trying to keep in step with other packages that open metadata depends on. I think that this will help with some of that functionality. We have some new connectors coming into the platform. We'll be seeing a presentation on data contracts later in the hour. But before we get to data contracts, I wanted to give you an update on our integration with MCP server. Right. If you are familiar, last month we presented in Open Metadata's MCP server, what we're adding to version 1.8, and what that'll allow you to interact with LLMs and Open Metadata. So if you are new to MCP server, if you're not familiar with what that means, it's just a way to give context to an application that uses an LLM. So we are giving context to an LLM platform, what it is available to it within open metadata, the tools that an LLM can leverage, and how it can both read from and write to open metadata. With MCP applications and tools like open metadata, we can maintain a single and standardized way to interface with all LLMs instead of having to build and maintain a separate integration for having an open metadata ChatGPT integration, an open metadata Claude integration on down the line. We can just build out one standardized way for open metadata to interface with an LLM and have that functionality available to them. We have a longer introduction to what LLMs are in last month's community meetup. I just pasted a link into our chat that is linking to a video that we had last month in this community meetup. So specifically for version 1.8.0 for MCP server, we have 11 tools that will be available. So through an LLM, you'll be able to search through your metadata and be able to find all the assets that you have connected to your open metadata instance. You'll be able to not only read from and search these assets, but write to them as well, and be able to create lineage between assets, create glossary terms, and things like that. You can see there's only 7 tools that I have in this screenshot, which doesn't match the 11 tools. So we're adding new tools all the time. I just refreshed this number this morning. There is no longer 7, but now 11 different ways, different endpoints that LLMs can leverage and manipulate your open metadata instance. We have videos coming. So there's a small amount of configuration to both your open metadata environment and your LLM environment to get these two to be able to talk to each other. It's very straightforward, and we'll be able to have some videos and some content that are walking you through the process. We'll have a new website up, some documentation and guides as well for, if you want to walk through in a docs format rather than a video format. We'll have a variety of different ways for you to set this up, get your first prompt running that is able to leverage open metadata in this MCP server. So providing a lot of different on-ramps into this functionality. I'm really excited to get it into the community's hands. I wanted to showcase a demo that I saw from the community. I think this is, we're seeing here a screenshot of the open metadata Slack. I think that there's a lot of things that people want to do with open metadata. This new MCP server is providing not just a new way to do things, in my opinion, by far the easiest way to do a variety of tasks. So this engineer has a number of different services within open metadata, specifically Redshift and Athena. And they have this ETL service. Glue is preparing lineage between them. And if they're looking at just Redshift tables or just Athena tables, they get the lineage that they want to see. But Glue kind of is going from one service to another, this cross-service lineage, and open metadata isn't automatically identifying that. So they want a way to go and edit this data lineage to be able to show from Redshift, these tables are being prepared in Athena. And before MCP server, the best way to do so, as you can see, this suggestion is to use a manual lineage editor. So through the UI, you can kind of drag into your lineage graph new tables. You can create new connections in a lineage graph. And that's very easy to do through the UI. I don't know for this engineer, there could be hundreds of tables that they would have to do this with. There could be thousands of tables. And even though it's very easy to drag things through the UI, we don't want them to repeat that process hundreds, maybe thousands of times for each table within their Redshift database. So you could either, dig into the documentation, find our endpoints that allow you to grab all of your Redshift tables, grab all of your Athena tables, write some sort of Python to be able to match them together, loop through all those entity pairs and create a lineage. That could be something that you do once, and then just kind of figure that out, or we can have an LLM do it for us. So that is what I'm going to be showing right now. So if you see my screen, I have Claude open. This is Claude Desktop. And you can see I can add from OpenMetadata. So I already have the MCP server configured here. Again, we'll have videos and guides for how to do that. Just takes a couple steps. I wanted to add my prompt here. I just did a little bit of updates to the question that we saw come into the support. They were saying, I can't seem to get my cross-server lineage to work. I'm just kind of saying something similar, update my cross lineage in OpenMetadata. But I don't have Redshift in Athena. I'll show you what my environment is working with. I have Snowflake here, a number of different tables in banking account, Snowflake database, and you can see that lineage here. I have this credit card table here in Snowflake, but I also have the same table in Databricks, right? So you can see maybe I'm using some sort of ETL provider to push this credit card table from Snowflake to Databricks. It's not showing up in this lineage. So I can, as I mentioned, edit this lineage, drag in a table, find that credit card, and then just kind of create a point-to-point connection here. But then I'd be having to do that through the UI with every table, and that really doesn't scale. So I would just want to copy where I'm going to be creating this lineage from. Okay, so now in Claude, we can see that I have a prompt ready to go. It will be searching. You can see these APIs that is not only finding the right API to send to OpenMetadata, but running those requests for me. Again, I think that there's some prompt engineering that can go on here. You can see it kind of failed with these search metadata terms, but once it gets to this get entity details, it's actually been able to grab my Snowflake table. I think that there's a way that I could prompt this to just jump straight into this get entity details right away. Again, I just wanted to show you guys like kind of the first thing that came to mind for me. Fortunately for me, was able to work. Now it's getting the corresponding tables in Databricks. So again, I'm not having to go to the OpenMetadata docs here and be able to figure out this get entity details endpoint, what parameters it needs, kind of matching with my OpenMetadata instance, doing it for both of these assets. Now it's been able to automatically map, even though I have these in a little bit of a different format, been able to match my tables in my source database with my tables in my target database, matching all of those and then creating the lineage between them. Again, something that I think a lot of people on the call would be capable of doing, certainly through the UI or even doing it through our Python SDK. It's just a matter of whether or not you would want to, right? Versus writing one prompt, being able to have someone like Claude do the rest for me. So if I jump back into my Open Metadata instance, I can refresh that lineage. And now that we see that that cross um, that cross service lineage is now updated. Snowflake is pointing to the Databricks table that I am, uh, moving it to. And it's not just for this credit card table. You can see I have 5 tables in this particular Snowflake database. If we go to another one, it's done it all for me for all of these tables. So just finding ways to do things quicker. If you have things that are maybe ad hoc and you don't want to prepare a script for it, but you do want to have something operate on your OpenMetadata instance, maybe clean it up, add some new functionality, do that at scale. Going through an LLM through this MCP server is going to be a way to really do this quickly and easily. And thanks to our community member that was able to ask this in the support channel, it immediately, came to my desktop as something that was kind of flashing. This is something that would be by far the easiest with MCP server. So thank you for that demo idea. Again, coming from our community. And that's really where I think the best ideas, that's where only way that I think that we're going to be able to uncover how actually powerful and easy this thing becomes is with you all. I wouldn't have ever thought to do that example and show this demonstration to you all today if it wouldn't have been for this thread and the support channel. So I really appreciate that. And that's really where I think we're going to get the best ideas is from you all. So please, if as you get your hands on this, try some stuff out. If you have success, if MCP server saves you time, if it allows you to do something that you weren't able to do before, please let us know, right? We are looking for new use cases for this all the time. We now have a MCP channel within our Slack. So wanted to be able to call that out. You saw from my prompt, it was able to go and get it, but it kind of took a little bit of time for Claude to get there. So that can be a great channel where we think about optimizing prompts. We can think about adding new prompts, or is this a right use case for MCP server? I'm really looking forward to the discussions that we have there. I also was thinking, for our community meetups, we have, you may be familiar with the community spotlights where we've had some engineers from Carrefour on and talking about their process with open metadata. That's something that I would love to hear more of. So if you've had success, our community spotlights are a longer engagement about kind of your journey into and past production with open metadata. Would love to hear those stories and would love to share your stories with our community spotlights. I also wanted to start a quick MCP spotlight. So if you have any great ideas you can solve, you could see once that prompt got going, this was about a 30-second, demonstration that I wanted to prepare for you all. So we're really looking for quick and easy ways to showcase to our community the power of this MCP server so that we can get that word out. So if you are using Open Metadata 1.8 and there's something that you would like to share through the community, I think the MCP Slack channel would be a great avenue to do that. And we can maybe even have an MCP spotlight where we're getting you on the next Open Metadata community meetup and showing us the prompts that you sent, actions that those prompts took with Open Metadata and how it kind of eased your workflows. So please reach out to me on Slack if you have any ideas or any spotlights, both, that kind of longer engagement, a community spotlight, or just a quick and easy prompt that really helped you with MCP server. So thanks for that. I hope you all are excited to get your hands on that MCP server, but we have a lot more coming. As you saw, the amount of PRs that have been ramping up and merging as we get prepared for Open Metadata version 1.8. Another thing that is coming very soon is data contracts. So wanted to bring Harsha in to talk about Open Metadata and data contracts.
Can see my screen. Let me do a full slideshow. Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm Harsha, and thanks, Nick. That's an awesome MCP intro. Again, hard thing to follow. MCP is everywhere, but so is data contracts. So we'll see. You get the excitement about of today's community meetup. So why and how we are doing the data contracts, right? So what is the reason that we need a data contract? We live in a world of schema-less, right? So what is that? So most of you or most of us who ever dealt with data probably received an email or a Slack notification or whatnot saying, hey, the dashboard that you built is not working. The pipeline is broken. And all the chaos ensues. We go, we fight, figure out across the organization to figure out how this, change happened. I haven't done any changes to the pipeline. What went wrong? Only to find out somewhere upstream, the producer who's shipping the data probably changed the schema without notifying the consumers. That's us who's using the data. So we kind of live in a world of schema-less, right? So what is that, right? So the producers are focused on the applications and the improvements that they are doing. They're not very aware of how the data that they are shipping. The main goal is to ship a better API, better product. The logs that are coming to the data infrastructure, your data warehouse, that are powering your ML models, your reports and dashboards. They're not aware of how those things are being used, who is using it. Same with the data consumers, right? So the analysts, the business users or whatnot, who's building these pipelines, dashboards and reports, not aware how the data is being shipped into these data warehouses. So when a change goes in, the change is not aware of the schema that they are changing. Similarly, on the other side, we are not aware of how the schema is changing, and hence your pipeline breaks, your dashboard breaks. And this kind of creates a lack of trust between, hey, is there anything is the pipeline that I'm building without change of code? It's a dashboard that I'm building. It's the ML model that I'm building is going to read me, a high quality data product that I'm building, because this data in the upstream can change. I'm not notified. So all of these things doesn't create a trust. When some changes happen in the product, am I getting the right data that I'm expecting of? So this creates the workouts. We are all kind of trying to do the better job. So we go to Slack, we can talk to these data producers, have a offline, not standardized contract saying that, hey, you're my friend. If you make any changes, please let me know so that I don't break my dashboard. I don't get this, email and alert that my users are not happy with. So we cannot create these contracts. Kind of works for a while, but what happens if the engineer, the person that you are working with leaves or moves on to another project? You moved on to another project. The tribal knowledge that we have built, it kind of lost. Again, we came back to the original situation of schema breaks, nobody notified, and data itself is unusable. And this problem is kind of getting a lot more and more complicated because, as you see, the data infrastructure, for all good reasons, all the reasons we have, is becoming increasingly complex. The distance between the person who's actually producing the data versus the consumers in between all the other tooling is increasing, right? So there is no clear ownership. There is no clear lack of lineage and how that impacts if I'm making a change to the downstream. And from a downstream, who's impacting me, all of that is not kind of codified, not clearly shown in any other platform. So when you Google for what is a data contractor, so you get it says, it's an agreement between producer and consumers. But what exactly is this agreement? Now let's draw the parallels to a software engineering from a data engineering point of view, right? So if ever kind of stood up any service in any company, we go through these several iterations of a service level agreement, right? So I'm standing up my API or I'm shipping this cool new project that helps users to do amazing things in the product. When we are going to go put it in production, we sit down with our technical architects, our product manager, our DevOps. They're all going to ask you questions like, what is the SLAs that you're going to provide on this API? What is the latencies? What happens if the service is degraded? Are we adding alerts on top of it? How do you roll out without backward compatible changes? This API going to be used across the company. How do you make sure that the API that you're shipping going to have the backward compatibility? So all of these questions asked in a software engineering when you are pushing the service into production, right? We have to codify that. We have to have on-call support. We have to have ruling upgrades. We need to make sure that changes that we are making backward compatible. But when it comes to data, it never been the case. Data is like always kind of a thought of a secondary nature because services are what driving the user traffic and everything else. But data is such an important product in the world of LLMs, in the world of ML models that we are trying to build in dashboards to make decisions. So that is where the data contract comes into play, right? So it's similar to what a service level agreement, but for data. It's an agreement where a consumer who's using the data and a producer who's producing the data sitting down and saying that, hey, I need this quality expectation because this is how I'm using my data to power my ML models. I need these SLAs so that the data I'm using is not stale data. I'm not making decision based on months old data, week old data. And when things break, we do need ownership so that we as users of the data can go and ping those owners saying that, hey, this problem happening, help me fix it. So the goal is to promote reliability and any changes that we are doing at breaking change kind of informed and, be attentive to those changes so that things don't break out of an accident. So kind of switching to why OpenMetadata, right? So where we come into play. So if you're already using the OpenMetadata, you have all of these building blocks to build. You're probably already kind of using data contracts without saying this as a data contract, right? So we have, let me share this. We have from OpenMetadata from the very beginning, we started with, before even saying, hey, data should be, have contracts and SLAs and everything, metadata that we capture should have schemas and should have validations. So the metadata itself has a high contract value that when someone's saying table should exist, this is how it exists in OpenMetadata. This is how it is same for the user who's using the UI. It is the same for the user who's using SDK, same for our connectors, which are automatically bringing all of this metadata into OpenMetadata. And any change that is happening to your metadata, be it a description change, someone adding a tag, adding owners, or someone changing a schema, the version, and there will be change logs for you to, look at historically how the data is, the metadata specification is evolved. And we have major and minor version guards. Like if you change a description, it's not a big deal. We're going to minor version that's minor change. But if you're changing a schema, it's a major version change because it's going to impact downstream users. There is alerts that can set up to inform the downstream users that, hey, somebody changed the customer table. Here is how the new schema looks like. So we started with the metadata as a ground field for that. Then we added data qualities and enforcement right within OpenMetadata, right? So you want to bring all of these different personas into the OpenMetadata. By that, typically in data producers, probably your engineers, and then you have data governance, your business users, and you as a data engineer, data analyst. So far, the platforms are kind of catering differently to different these personas. We want to bring all of these different personas in the organizations on the same platform. That's where the contract establishment happens. That's where the collaboration happens. So to do that, we enable no-code UI test so that any user can add a test. You be it an engineer, be it a business user, be it a data governance person. They can establish saying that, hey, customer data, customer ID must not be null. I want to express that. I can come to OpenMetadata and enforce that. When you create this test, it's not just for the namesake test, actually executing the test, running the results, providing you a time series fashion of how this test is behaving, right? And when the test fails, we also build an instant workflow. There's an instant is open for you. It also notifies owners and any downstream users can figure out, if there is a test failure, if there is an instant open for me. So that again, all of your users can come together, collaborate, and figure out the root cause much faster rather than when it just fails, when a Python breaks, we are running around scattered. Now, lineage and observability, right? So end-to-end lineage, end-to-end column lineage. For that, we enable all the web API services. You can see API collections, API endpoints. We have open API connector that can automatically bring service level API specifications, how they are producing the data into your transitional databases to the data warehouses, ML models, dashboards, and reports all the way to the end. So you have end-to-end visibility of that. You have freshness value and pipeline metrics, how they are doing, how fast the data is coming into my my tables. So what is the last known updates and all of these things. Finally, root cause context. Like when it things big, how do you identify? Who should we go up the stream and talk to? All of these are encoded into OpenMetadata today. To just take a moment to kind of showcase what we have. So it is a sandbox. This is my customers tables. I can go and search customer history. You have all of this amazing information right here laid out. And if I go to the lineage, it gives me, end-to-end lineage all the way from where the data is started and where it's going, right? Can also enable column level lineage, right? To understand which dashboard is influenced by which column. Finally, I can add observability. So when we add observability, I can see that in customer history, there are 18 tests are failing, which are kind of which column that are impacting, and the downstream, which dashboards are getting impacted as well. So you can look at this as a end-to-end observability platform to understand if I change a schema, if I break a quality test, how and who it will impact. Same with the data consumer side. If I'm owning the artist dashboard here, I know from standing from artist dashboard, hey, it's actually the customer, not the operations view, not the artist. It's actually the customer history that's breaking my data. So I should be going and talking to those owners, right? And, you have all the nice features of exporting this offline for your offline analysis and so on. Going back to here. So what we have showcased is all the building blocks that are already available in OpenMetadata for you to kind of, if you're using OpenMetadata for any longer time, you're already doing all of these things. You're in a great shape. You understand, how the data is being built, what tests are there, who should you contact in case of failure. All of these things are built for you. You're already a step ahead in terms of implementing data contracts. So what we are doing in 1.8 is to kind of officiate this as a specification on the data contract. So we want to capture all of these attributes of, hey, what is the contract? What is the schema level checks that we want to do? What is SLAs? What is the quality and so on in a specification, and provide you as a contract at the table level, topic, or ML model. So I'll jump into we have wrote a long format kind of a design here. So feel free to jump in and provide some feedback. Is it readable? Should I zoom in? Readable? Okay.
It looks pretty good.
So what we have done here is as a specification. So again, everything in OpenMetadata starts with a metadata specification. The reason for that is we want to standardize the specification that informs how the API validates that specification. Our UI uses the same thing. Any helper tool, SDKs, connectors uses the same tooling. So we're standardizing the specifications in one place. Right? So what we have done here, what does the specification say for a data contract? It has a name, a description. Then you get to choose should a data contract fail? Should you open an incident or not? And who are the owners of this contract? These are inherited owners of a target entity. For example, I'm as a user, as a producer, I have a consumer. We are sitting together. We are building a contract for a table. So target entity links to that table saying that, hey, the contract that you both are working is towards the customer's table, and we can attach that contract to the table. And for initial release, we are doing it for table, topic, and ML models. And out of that, the first section talks about schema. So in a customer's table, there may be 10 columns today, right? So those 10 columns, there are 10 or 20 other teams using those 10 columns. There is a clear expectations of those 10 columns. right? There may be a customer ID, and the expectation is after UI. Tomorrow, by using the schema section here, we can codify that saying that customer ID must always be UUID format. I do not want this to be ever broken. And the goal here is to inform the producers and the system, as long as this data contract is active and specified, the customer ID cannot change its format, right? But you can have other 5 columns where maybe that, as a producer, I'm getting a lot of feature requests to improve the customer's table. They're asking me add this column, maybe, last update from the customer. That column doesn't exist. So outside of the data contract, I can expand and evolve my schema without impacting my 10 columns that I've guaranteed for my consumers, saying this is the schema of that particular table. And I'm going to, stay with that. So this is a section where both producer and consumer says, this is the schema that we are agreed on. These are the types. This is the values that I want. This is the type of it, right? Now comes the semantics. Schema is great, right? So it's like, shipping APIs. We have all the validations and everything else. But if the API doesn't have a documentation, it's not as good as not existing, right? Semantics is where we are trying to capture that. I'm creating this amazing customer table. I have few users, but I'm not putting enough effort into documenting what the customer table is. What are the columns represent? Like, what is the glossary terms? What is the business concepts that I'm bringing in customer's table? So if I'm not documenting well, I'm not kind of educating beyond certain group. So this is for a way to enhance and enforce semantical checks, where you get to choose. If you're putting this data contract, I must have entity description, that is table level description, topic level description, or a column description required. And the tags, you must have at least one tag, one glossary terms. Any other integrity rules, maybe you have custom properties that you're bringing in. You can add those integrity rules as well into the semantics checks. Now comes the security. Now, what data we have here? Is it a PI data? Is it a GDPR data? Is it a CCPA? What are the policies that the company is handling? Like what classification of data that we are producing into this customer's table? Is it okay? So this kind of informs like what is the your security policy going to be, right? And who can access it? At what level they can access it? Then comes the quality section. Again, we have all the data quality tests already. So what we are doing is to bring all the data quality checks that we already have and codify here, saying that I, as a consumer, am using, customer order amount. And I want to make sure that order amount never going to be, less than what. So I can create the data quality test and I can sit down with the producer and saying that, hey, this is how we are actually building my model, my chart, my dashboard, whatnot. This is the data I'm using it. I want to make sure that test passes this way. And again, codify the data contract. Finally comes SLA, right? So what is the refresh frequency? How often the data gets updated? What is the latency? Latency could be all the way from origin to this table. How do you have calibrated that max latency for that? And at what time actually data gets updated here? So that, if someone is looking at my dashboard every day at 9 a.m., but the data that I'm using lands at 12 p.m., I'm probably using it yesterday's data. So I can be more informed about the dashboard and my audience can be informed about this SLAs and availability time as well. Retention, right? How long the data is retained. Again, that can be informed by the security policies that you already have. And this can be codified saying that, hey, I need at least 30 days of data. If you don't have it, the model that I'm using it might not work better. So again, an agreement is established. At least minimum 30 days of data should be available for this particular consumer. Finally, version. Everything that we do in OpenMetadata through the specification is versioned, right? Like I said, we have any change that we have, there's a version history, change log. Similar to data contracts, how the data contract is evolving, this also can be versioned. Finally, there is status. While we are building this particular data contract, it will be initially in the draft status. There will be reviewers. Once it is agreed upon, it becomes active. If anything breaks the data contracts, it becomes violated, right? And we're going to keep this in a time series fashion. If you're, again, look at any of our data insights and data test results, those show over a period of time how the test is passing, how the insights are behaving. Same with the contract, how long this is being green. Is it being broken in any time? Can we trust this data because this data contract is being upheld? So all of that encoded into this specification. So that's what we have done for the 1.8 APIs and specifications. Now, That's the initial. That's not where we want to stop. We want to build a data contract UI, right? So I'm going to showcase a mock. We're going to share our GitHub issues and mocks. Please provide as much feedback as you can so that we actually are building for taking to your use case into account, building a better product out of it. So how the data contract, again, is the mock visible? Zoom in. Looks good. Let's see if it looks good. Okay. So this particular page is a table page. Again, if you're using OpenMetadata, you're kind of aware of it. You land on this page, you have schema, activity field and task, sample data, and other elements here. So we're using contract as another tab. When there is nothing, you can click and add a contract. Again, you have two options, right? You have add as a YAML and add as a web UI. You want to kind of cater to the multiple personas that exist in an organization. So let's go to the add web UI, right? So once we come here, we ask for the data contract title. Who are the owners? Again, the owners will be kind of inherited from the table itself. Some description about this if you want to enable the incident management in case the data contract is failed. Now you click on the schema. You get the schema level checks here, like what schema that you are adhering to. Maybe the particular tables have hundreds of columns, but most of the users are only using 10. And I want to make sure my contract says this schema will not change unless there's a formal discussions happens, and it will always remain the same, so that any queries that I'm writing is not failing in the middle of the night. Now comes the semantics, like at the table level, column level. At table level, I can say that, hey, description must set. I can give a sample description that I want to see. Owners, who are the owners going to be, tags, tier, and other additional elements that you continue to make here, including the custom properties, right? So that the definition of the table is properly defined. So it's not me and some other person, anyone later comes in can understand the documentation about this particular table. Security, right now we want to kind of keep it free form. We want to, again, take input from you and how do you want to define these policies. And we want to provide the data classification, which is our tag system to define what data this particular table has. Quality. If you already did the work and created a bunch of existing tests, you can bring those existing tests into this particular contract and say that, hey, as part of this contract, I want to make sure these 5 tests are passing all the time. Then comes SLA. Again, as we talked, what is the refresh max and latency, what is availability time, what is the retention, all of these things can be codified right here. And at any given point, you can actually switch to YAML editor if that is your favorite way of doing it. Go back and forth from UI to YAML, right? And hit save. This at the time we ask, again, most of the time when contracts are defined, it's just a YAML that sits there. We don't want to be just kind of a passive data contract. It's a living and breathing data contract. By that, we are going to check all the time if this table is holding the contract that is defined and agreed upon. So to that, you can actually say that, hey, I want this to be every hour, every day, every week. I want to make sure these contracts are getting checked and getting notified, right? You can also select the reviewers to review the common understanding between producers and consumers. Once you hit create, you get this view of, hey, here's a contract name, who created it. It's active now because the reviewers approved it. What version of data contract that we are on? Who are the reviewers? Description that we wrote. What is contract status, right? We define 4 or 5 sections. Out of those, how many are actually being upheld? You see schema, semantics are great. Security is not great. Quality, few of them are failing. SLAs are being met. So from a contract standpoint, from a consumer standpoint, from a producer standpoint, we get a bird's eye view of, is this contract being upheld? Whenever these checks are failing, we automatically notify the producers and the downstream consumer saying that, hey, data contract is broken. Here is the details of it. And each of these sections kind of gives you more details about what is the quality as for this contract. Again, you can define the quality outside of this contract, have more tests or whatnot, but we are only concentrating on the tests that are belongs here and showcasing how they're behaving. Similarly, based on the SLAs, again, we compute all the freshness metrics, all the pipeline statuses, and getting this here into the status. I think that's what I want. And, at the top level, it clearly shows the contract, upheld or failed. Again, anyone landing on this page directly in the schema page or whatnot, tells, hey, is this being upheld or not? That's the overall, what we are trying to do, what we have built so far, what we are kind of going to ship in 1.9 and beyond. We So yeah, just to summarize, like what we have done is to build a data contract specifications and APIs that are going to be in release 1.8.0. Data contract UI right within OpenMetadata, you can build all of these data contracts. And as a YAML, as user at the UI, schema automated checks, we already have a lot of building blocks that you're probably already using. You're getting a lot of wins out of it without this performance specification we have, which is built-in DQ test, incident management, alerts, our root cause analysis. All of these are existing features that in OpenMetadata. So contracts and API specifications are getting shipped in 1.8.0. 1.9.0 will have the UI, the amazing UI that we just showed you, and schema automated checks and everything else will be part of that release as well. So that concludes what we're trying to ship. Again, please check out our GitHub issue, and we'll share the Figma mocks as well. Please provide us feedback. We always, with OpenMetadata, we want to build a feature that is used by a lot of community members, and your feedback is always helpful to fine tune the feature that we're delivering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Harsha. Okay, with that, you saw, hopefully through data contracts, you can build out better data assets. And then with MCP server, hopefully you can do that easier, right? So we're trying to extend the functionality with an open metadata and then make it easier for you to use as well. So a lot of things coming very soon with open metadata version 1.8. And please feel free to, again, if this is something that you're getting value out of, if you're utilizing open metadata in production, please feel free to give us a star on GitHub and join the Slack, especially that MCP channel. I'm really looking forward to what you all are going to be building there. I really believe that the best use cases for how this is making things easier, how this is making things run smooth and fast, like it's going to come from you all. So I'm really excited to see what you build. And again, the demo.
Can I address a few questions that are coming in the Slack?
Yeah, can we get some of the questions fielded? We have 4 more minutes.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah. Let's get to, like we saw will the data contracts work on the free version of open metadata or paid version?
Yeah. So what we showed, including the UI, will be part of OpenMetadata open source. All of the end-to-end features. Again, as an open metadata, you probably already seen data quality, end-to-end lineage, data observability, alerts, and everything else. Similar to that, data contracts is a fundamental feature we want to address in open source.
Excellent. Yes, and as you saw in that, so that demonstration that Harsha presented is free. The one that I presented as well, I was using MCP would be on the free version, open metadata that was open source, and then I was using the free version of Claude as well.
I think we want to use open source version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think there's one more question. Can you import data contracts defining DBT? So our goal with this specification is to kind of capture more of an umbrella of all of these different platforms providing. The reason for that is, as OpenMetadata, we have the end-to-end visibility. We're not a kind of siloed platform. So if you have a DBT contracts, you'll be able to import as it is. We're providing kind of migration option as well, where you don't need to make any changes into a DBT contract. It automatically sucks in and maps into OpenMetadata contract.
So there was one more question we had. It looked like you were showing like tables and column contracts. Would it be possible to create a data contract on the domain level or schema level?
Yeah, so we would love to understand like what it would be the use case around that. So please provide us the feedback in the GitHub issues. And so questions to you is like, some of the things that we're doing in the data contract is strict schema checks, right? At a domain, at a product level, you may have tables of different nature, different schemas. So how do you unify those checks at the top level? So if you guys can share some of those kind of use cases, that will help us on how to do this not just the table or the topic ML model, maybe at a high level as well. What kind of contracts that you want to kind of share with your teams, that will be great to understand.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining this month.
One last thing I want to kind of clarify. I think there is some chatter going around. The quality shown on the screen is more for an enterprise paid version, but not a free or open source version. The UI that we showed is consistent among our open source as well as our enterprise. We take very high or extreme pride in on shipping a great UI in open source. That's been our ethos from day one. So you get pretty much similar experience. There are obviously you get enterprise features, but the UI and the build, everything that we are doing is available in open source as well.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. And looking forward to you all getting your hands on that UI here for data contracts very shortly. So as you can see on my screen, a lot of different ways to stay up to date. Once that release is published, you all will be the first to know if you are following us or you are on the OpenMetadata Slack. So there's a lot of ways to keep updated. Hopefully, within this past hour, this is a great way with all of the new PRs that are getting merged in this functionality, really helping you all stay on top of just how, much things are moving and how much, we are adding to this project. So thank you all for your attendance. Please let us know if you have any follow-up questions that we didn't get to. Please let us know in the support channel of OpenMetadata. And please come back for next month. We'll be having some more information on data quality agents. Hopefully we'll be able to see some things even from the community on how you all are using MCP server. So I'm really looking forward to the summer, looking forward to July, and to get you all OpenMetadata version 1.8. So thanks again for attending.
Well, thanks everyone.